You're not just overthinking, you're rehearsing a life that isn't even happening. And the worst part is, your brain is starting to prefer it. Those conversations you keep playing in your head, the arguments you win, the moments where you finally say everything perfectly, none of that is random, and it's definitely not harmless. Because every time you escape into those fake scenarios, you're training your mind to avoid something real, and slowly, without noticing it, you're becoming more comfortable in imagination than in actual life. That's why it feels so addictive, why you keep going back even when nothing changes, even when it drains you. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. If your mind needs fake situations just to feel in control, just to feel understood, just to feel okay, then what does that say about what's missing in your real life right now? Because this isn't just a habit, it's a signal, and if you ignore it, it doesn't stay harmless. It starts shaping how you think, how you react, and eventually, how you live. This isn't random. Your mind is following a script you've repeated so many times you don't even notice it anymore. The same scenes, the same types of conversations, you proving your point, you preparing for something going wrong, or you finally getting everything to play out perfectly. And the dangerous part is, it convinces you you're doing something productive, like you're thinking ahead, like you're fixing something. But you're not. You feel progress, while your real life stays exactly where it is. Nothing moves, nothing changes, because the moment things get uncomfortable in real life, you disappear into your head. And at first, it feels like relief. But then it flips. The more you escape, the less capable you start feeling dealing with anything real. So you go back again and again until your brain quietly learns something it was never supposed to learn, that facing reality is optional. And once that belief settles in, this stops being something you do sometimes. It becomes how your mind replaces reality without you even realizing it. This didn't start as a habit, it started as a reaction to something you didn't know how to face in the moment, something that felt too uncomfortable to say out loud or too risky to express fully. So your mind did what it does best. It created distance. It built a version of reality where things make sense, where you're understood, where you don't lose control, because real life didn't give you that feeling when you needed it. And that's where it becomes subtle, because the scenarios you repeat the most aren't random comfort thoughts. They're tied directly to the situations you never fully processed in real life. The conversations you replay the most are usually the ones you're avoiding the most in real life. The outcomes you perfect in your head are the ones you don't fully trust yourself to create outside of it. And slowly, without noticing it, your mind starts doing something dangerous. It begins treating imagination as a safer version of reality. So you don't just escape into it anymore, you start relying on it. And at that point, something shifts internally, because you begin to feel more capable in your head than you do in your actual life, even when nothing real has changed. At first, it doesn't feel like damage because nothing is breaking loudly enough for you to notice it. It just feels like thinking, like normal mental activity. But slowly, something starts to shift. You're in conversations, but part of you is always slightly elsewhere. Not fully gone, just not fully there either. And over time, that split becomes your normal state without you realizing it. You start noticing something strange. You feel mentally tired even on days where nothing actually happened that should drain you. No big problems, no intense events, yet your mind feels heavy for no clear reason. And that's because it's not resting in one place. It's constantly switching between real life and imagined life. And that constant internal movement creates a kind of fatigue you can't easily explain to yourself. And here's the part that feels even more subtle. Nothing bad looks like it's happening from the outside. You're still functioning, still talking, still doing what you need to do. But internally, your attention is slowly being pulled away from the present moment more and more often. So real life doesn't feel broken. It just starts feeling less engaging compared to what your mind can create instantly on its own. And that's where the shift becomes serious. You don't just escape into imagination anymore when you're bored or stressed. You start relying on it just to feel mentally active. And without noticing it, real life starts feeling like something you have to force yourself to stay present in, while your mind keeps offering you an easier place to exist. At some point, it stops feeling like something you do on purpose. It starts happening before you even notice it, like your mind is already somewhere else while your body is still here. Real life keeps happening in front of you, but part of you is never fully inside it anymore. Not gone, just not fully present either. And the strange part is, you adapt to it without questioning it. You call it overthinking, distraction, imagination, anything that feels normal enough to ignore. But slowly, something changes in how real moments feel to you. Conversations don't land the same way. Simple moments don't stay with you like they used to. And instead of noticing that shift, your mind starts doing something automatic. It compares everything in real life to what happens in your head. And once that comparison starts, real life almost always feels like it's falling short. Not because it actually is, but because imagination gives you control, timing, meaning, and emotional intensity that real life doesn't offer on demand. So without realizing it, your brain starts leaning toward the place where things feel more complete, even if they aren't real. And that's the breaking point. Not because something explodes or collapses, but because nothing does. Nothing warns you. Nothing tells you it's happening. You just slowly reach a point where you realize real life didn't disappear. Your attention just stopped fully living inside it. And when that thought finally hits you, it doesn't feel like an observation anymore. It feels like a question you didn't expect to ask yourself. How much of you is still here, and how much of you has already been living somewhere else this entire time? If you're being honest with yourself, this stopped being just imagination a long time ago. It started affecting how you actually experience your life. Because the more your mind gets used to building complete, emotionally satisfying situations in your head, the less satisfying, incomplete reality starts to feel. So real conversations don't hit the same way. Real silence feels harder to sit in. Real moments feel like they need something extra just to feel meaningful. And over time, it creates something subtle. You're there, but you're not fully inside the moment anymore. You're responding, you're functioning, you're moving through life, but part of you is slightly detached, like you're observing instead of fully living. And that distance doesn't feel dramatic. It feels normal, which is exactly why it goes unnoticed. And that's where it gets uncomfortable. Because it starts to feel like you're watching your own life instead of living it. Not because anything changed externally, but because your attention is no longer fully anchored in what's actually happening. And then comes the part most people don't expect. You start realizing your mind remembers imagined situations more vividly than real ones. Things that never happened feel clearer than things you actually lived. And that's not because imagination is stronger, it's because your attention was more present there than it was in real life. And once that realization hits, it stops being just an idea, it becomes something harder to ignore. If your mind keeps going somewhere else every day, how much of your actual life is being fully experienced by you while it's happening? So none of this is about stopping your thoughts. It's about finally noticing where they take you when you're not paying attention. Because the goal was never to remove imagination from your mind. The real shift happens when you start seeing the difference between thinking and actually being present in what's happening right in front of you. And those small moments where you catch yourself drifting, replaying something, imagining something, escaping for just a second, those aren't failures. They're the only moments where you actually have a choice. Not over everything, but over where your attention returns. Because everything you're actually living is happening right here, even when your mind is somewhere else. And the strange part is, you don't completely lose your life when this happens. You just stop fully feeling it while it's happening. Nothing changes on the outside, but something quietly shifts in how much of it you actually absorb. And maybe that's what makes this so easy to miss. There's no clear moment where you realize you've left. You're still here, just not all of you at the same time. So it's not really about your imagination. It's about how often your life is being experienced somewhere your attention isn't fully present to notice it.